Hey YouTube, welcome back. Hope you're all having a fantastic day. Thank you for joining me for another episode here. Today we're going to be talking about what's going on with the Minnesota ROKKR. Just as of late, they have benched GodRX, they've brought in Exceed. We're going to go through, talk about all of the announcements, all of the releases. We are going to dive just a tiny bit deeper on this one. I like to give you an analytical approach to these roster changes, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to look at stats, we're going to look at some situations where this might help, maybe it won't, but without further ado, I first kind of noticed that something was up when we got this tweet from GodRX. He's usually one that doesn't tweet stuff like this, but he said, expect streams this week. Who's going to take over Verdansk with me? Also going to play 10s. And then after that, he posted this picture of kind of a kid tapping his fingers. And then he said, and there it is. When he said, and there it is, it was a response to Minnesota ROKKR posting this video from Saint and Reppin, just giving a roster update on the recent news and their roster change. I will say that Minnesota has been fantastic in terms of being transparent, being open to the public. They posted this video, they immediately made a post on Twitter, and they also did an AMA on the competitive COD subreddit. We are going to go ahead and we're going to look through a couple of those responses. I think there are some really good points, and there are some that I might have a little bit of an issue with. So the first one that I want to go ahead and bring up is this one from ZZ Shake. He said, is there anything specifically that has contributed to y'all's decline in performance online? Thanks for doing this, MMA. To which Brian Sate replied, he said, there was a lot of things that contributed for sure. Up until last weekend, we weren't really playing on too good of internet. So first of all, that could be one, right? If you're not playing on great internet and it's an online league, then that probably would affect you quite a bit. But the thing that I took issue with was this next statement. He said a lot of people lost motivation with the online switch and with COVID. And to me, I'm not sure that any sort of move would really fix this situation, right? If you're not motivated to get in and play and watch VODs and fix your mistakes and stuff like that, I'm not really sure if any number of roster changes can really help this. But he does say, on top of that, other teams began to learn the game to the extent that we did early on. Basically, he's just going through and he's saying that we really did know the game early, and a lot of the other teams just caught up in terms of hardpoint rotations and dom rotations and stuff like that. The other thing that I wanted to point out, the second reply here, and I think that this is a big one. Our Brute says, could you give some insight on why not Exceed for Silly? To me, Silly has seemed a bit underwhelming this year, and the GodRX Assault M4 duo can compete with any AR duo in the league. For those that have been following along, just a few weeks ago, there was a meta change, and now it is a much slower game that favors more ARs. And when you have Assault and GodRX, that can really help in the same way that Arcities and Formal would, Major Maniac and Celium, and a lot of these AR tandems around the league. But to that, Reppin says, replacing Silly for Exceed would not fix our pacing issues. So when I see this, it really does seem to be an issue that they feel like they're not getting around the map fast enough. So by taking Silly out and putting Exceed in, that's basically just switching one SMG to the other, and that doesn't help them move any faster, at least in their mind. He goes on to say that we want to apply as much pressure on the map as possible come playoffs, and the current roster provides us with the opportunity to do just that. Essentially, what they're saying is they're going to take GodRX out, an AR, they're going to put in an SMG, and that should help with pacing around the map a little bit. Now, I will say, in this AR meta that has slowed the game down quite a bit, I'm not sure how much this is going to help. If you're GodRX, your main goal around the map was to open up different lanes, get map position, and allow your SMGs to push up the map. So if you take one AR out and you put in an SMG, does that really help anything? Just continuing to run into that AR gunfire that's holding down those opposite lanes. One thing that I will say, this tweet from Easy Mac points out the difference from GodRX early in the season to later on in the season. Up here at the top, he posted that when it came to land, GodRX had a 1.27 KD in hardpoint, 1.45 in search and destroy, and a 1.25 in dom, whereas if you look at the latter half of the season when it switched to online, he had a 1.08 in hardpoint, a 1.11 in S&D, and a 0.92 in dom. So if you're just thinking about GodRX's performance early on in the year to later on in the year, I could see how this would make a little bit of sense. But the one thing that I do want to do is I want to go through their performances as of late, because for me, that would tell a little bit of a better story. So if we go through and just look at these KD numbers overall, this is from the entire season, and you can see here that GodRX and Assault right here in the middle both have a 1.13. Other than that, Alex has a 0.99, Asim has a 0.9, and Silly has a 0.9. So if you're looking at KDs overall from the very start of the year to the very end of the year, then you might be saying, well, there are definitely some worse KDs than GodRX there. But again, I digress. Let's go back through and let's look at how they've been playing as of late. Okay, if we look at the numbers from the Toronto event, you can see right here that Assault had a 0.89. That is absolutely not going to get it done from your main AR when main ARs are putting up numbers like 1.4, 1.5, Skies, Octane, Formal, R-Cities, Major Maniac. Those guys are all slaying at 1.3, 1.4. So for Assault to be a 0.89, that is not going to get it done. But GodRX had a 0.92, which was actually the highest on his team. Him along with Asim. Asim had a 0.92 also. But when I look at their other players, Alex had a 0.8. Silly had a 0.81. So when we're looking at the grand scheme of things, taking out a player like GodRX and putting in another SMG, does that fix the struggles from Assault and the struggles from Silly? Let's go back to their last event. The one before that was CDL New York. If we look here, Assault and Asim played great. Assault had a 1.15, Asim had a 1.14, but GodRX had a 0.99. Okay, is what it is. Obviously not a 1.15, not a 1.2. He's obviously not slaying well. But again, Alex, a 0.65, Silly, a 0.83. So when you're looking at these KD numbers overall, you can look at GodRX and say, well, maybe he's not putting up a 1.3, a 1.4, but he's certainly not the best one on their squad. Go back to the event before that, which was Minnesota. Now, I will say that Alex had the hand injury, so this maybe isn't the best barometer, but GodRX, a 1.05, Assault, a 1.17, and again, Alex had a 0.58. He was hurt, but Silly had a 0.77. So when I'm looking at this overall, I'm just not sure if this fixes their problem. I'm not saying it won't, but just from looking at the statistics, I'm not sure that taking him out would fix Silly's recent performances. Would it fix Alex's recent performances? Maybe they think that they need a little bit more help opening up the map, which is why they want to go with an SMG. But just from the early optics, it doesn't seem like that is exactly what's going to happen. Now, for those that have been around my community for quite a while here, you know that I can't make this video without showing you a couple in-game pieces and how I think this may or may not affect them overall. So with that, I do want to go ahead and bring up this map from the last series that they played against the Atlanta FaZe as they were on rotation here. So if I just key in on the minimap, I'll break it all down for you. But essentially, it's a 224 to 220 ball game. At the end of P4, Minnesota is set up on the right side of the map. They have P5 control, so you would just figure that they would go ahead and win this map 1 against a team like the Atlanta FaZe. So as we go ahead and dive into this, you can see that we're about to rotate to P5 on this side of the map. And as Atlanta's going to do this, they really only have maybe 2 pushes at the absolute most. From a strategic standpoint, what that tells you is that they basically have to push mid and they have to push the top side of the map, right? They don't have time to go all the way back down through P2 and hit this flank around the bottom side of the map. Sure, you might be able to send one person down there, but as a whole, you can't put and take your entire team down towards the bottom side of the map. If you're unsuccessful at doing that, that would take 10 or 12 seconds off the clock. If you get slayed out, you get spawned out, game's over. So you know that they have to push the top side of the map and try to push P3 spawns and get those back spawns. As I'm looking at this initially, and this is the very first thing that I saw, is that I just don't love this setup out of Minnesota. First of all, if you're looking at Asim down here in the bottom left, he is positioned down here to cut off this flank on the bottom side of the map. You might say, well, that's great. They're covering all their bases, but they also have Assault down here, who's their main AR. So they're putting 2 of their resources towards the bottom of the map to cover a route that might not even be pushed. It's more likely that the top side of the map is going to be pushed out. Knowing that, they're probably going to push out the top side of the map. And the other thing is that look at these 2 players right here. If we're looking at Silly and GodRX, I don't like the fact that they're down here just kind of chilling towards the front of P3 here. I like that Alex is up here, but as we hit play in just a moment, he's not going to be enough. And as soon as Atlanta gets through, they're going to have control of these positions up top. They're going to have the height advantage. They're going to be able to get these kills. So as soon as these 3 die on the top of the map, that's going to leave it open to Atlanta to push back P3, to flip these spawns, to go forward and end up winning the map. So let me ask you this, just to tie it all back together. Does switching out GodRX help this problem overall? Again, if I'm in the camp of Minnesota, I want to see people here. I want to see more people up here, right? I want to try to get as many gun battles in this area of the map right here. If I can kill them before they can even get across mid-map, that's going to continue to spawn them back P4. The way that they have it set up right now, they're just allowing them to take over mid-map and to get basically 1 kill away from getting inside of P5. Let's go ahead, let's delete all this, let's hit play, and you guys can see exactly how it works out. So again, pushing the top side of the map, GodRX gets gunned, Alex kills Celium, which gets traded out. Right there, Silly goes down, and just like that, the 3 players that were on the top side of the map, GodRX, Alex, and Silly, they're all dead. So now Atlanta is going to be able to push through the top side of the map. As they get back to P3, they're going to gain that back spawn. As soon as they gain that back spawn, that's going to put Minnesota spawning down here towards the bottom side of the map. And now they only have really these 2 choke points to push through, which are super hard to get through, especially once Atlanta gets in. So as we go ahead and just let this play this out just a tiny bit longer, does switching out GodRX fix this issue? Because if you're thinking about this, they just faced off with the #1 seed in the game, and they were 1 rotation away from beating them on this map. So does switching out GodRX help this? I'm not sure it does. So we don't really have to go through and just play the rest of that because we know how it ends up. Atlanta gets those back spawns, they get inside P5, they end up winning. The other thing that I wanted to show you, again, when it came to the 3rd map against Atlanta, it was the gun runner domination. They kind of made the same sort of mistakes. So as we go ahead and look at this, you can see that it's a 13-point ball game. Right now, there's 1 minute and 10 seconds left. So if you have a 2 cap, you can make up 14 points, which means if you're Minnesota, you just have to hold A and B. You're going to end up winning. As we go ahead and press play, you can see that Asim gets a kill here, Water. Perfect. You have control of the map. Just stop. Just chill out. Just hold the middle of the map and try to spawn kill Atlanta as they come out. So Asim pushes forward. He ends up dying, but you're going to see that they continue to push forward. As we watch the mini map here, you can see #1. So Alex was at the top side of the map. Alex was up here. And as soon as Asim dies, Alex pushes forward. So he goes for that neutral on C again. To me, it seems like they don't know that if they just have a 2 cap, they're going to end up winning. They seem to be pushing really super hard for that neutral just for a moment, because to me, it just doesn't seem like they know the situation and what they need to do to win. So as we go ahead and press play, I'm watching that C side right here, and right there, Alex ends up dying. So that's now 2 resources that they've had push C and die. Whereas if they just kind of hold tight, get into a corner somewhere or get a power position, they can get kills and keep Atlanta from pushing forward. As we go ahead and press play, Assault gets a nice kill, but now look, so as we're looking at this right here, Assault ends up dying on B. There are now 3 white arrows up here towards the top side of the map towards B. Think of how much more useful it could be if Asim was still sitting back like he was before. If Alex wouldn't have pushed forward onto C, right? They would still be there to be able to trade out those kills. So as we press play and just watch this a little bit further, you can see that Atlanta's about to get on B. There's another kill towards the top side of the map here by Abizi, and now this game is basically over. So if we're looking at the last 2 maps overall, they lost the hard point on Ramaza because they didn't hold the top side of the map as it rotated from P4 to P5. If we're watching this domination right here, they ended up losing this domination because they pushed forward trying to neutral C, when if they just hold A and B, they end up winning by just having that 2 cap. Again, there's a lot that goes into this. Maybe they really do feel like they need more speed around the map, but to me, it just feels like they're making small strategy errors here and there around the map. And if they make one different decision in either of those maps, they're up 2-1 going into map 4 against the Atlanta FaZe. So are they really far off? I don't think so. I just worry that this might have the potential to kind of backfire on them. So with that, guys, let me know in the comments comments below. Do you agree with some of the points? Do you think that I'm a little bit off? Do you think bringing Exceed really will help them? Comments down below. Let me know. I'm interested to see what the community has to say on this one. If you're new around here, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of my videos leading up to the Call of Duty League Playoffs 2020. Leave a like, it helps out the channel. And with that, thank you guys so much. I will catch you in tomorrow's upload.